everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone to our event. I'll start this panel discussion with a kind of warm note. Sustainable business growth is a critical imperative in today's global economy. As businesses increasingly expand their operations, there is a growing recognition that this global expansion must be balanced with a strong commitment to environmental protection, social responsibility, and long-term economic viability. Business that can innovate to be more sustainable stand to benefit from increased brand loyalty, operational efficiencies, risk mitigation, and future-proofing of their business module. I am pleased to welcome our distinguished panelists here today to explore this important topic in more depth. Without any further ado, let's start with the panel discussion. Sir, my first question is to you. What do you see as some of the key factors that businesses must consider when developing global strategies focused on sustainable growth?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Outlook, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, audience. I think today, it's imperative that every company needs to have a global strategy, right? Global expansion strategy. Whether they enter those markets abroad or not, but in terms of how they construct the business, how they see the business, it has to be global in its very nature. And there could be, well, let's take the case of Finalizer, right? The product that we have built and the Beyond Square as a company. I think we cater to clients, initially we started with India market, and we cater to clients in India who are predominantly global. So we have the likes of Intel, Pfizer, Philips, Reliance. So all of them are global companies, and we're catering to their requirements. So that just puts the imperative on us to think global, while we are still catering to the Indian context, Indian market. So the kind of vision that you want to set up front in terms of how do you, if I look at this from three perspectives, let's look at it from, for us, I think the product, and then the delivery of this product, and then how do you enter these markets abroad, right? And so if I look at product perspective, I think it's very important to have a very clear vision in terms of where do you want to head, as a company. And the exacting standards that is required in a global context, becomes important. In terms of, say, the entry strategy for different markets, so we were very clear that while we start in India, we partner with some of the best of firms. So the Big Fours and other reputed companies are our partners. So naturally, when we have moved to markets abroad, these partners kind of come with us, right? So they kind of become part of the expansion strategy. And in terms of the delivery, so most of our implementation and delivery, again, happens through partners. It's important how we choose our partners so that when we start going to markets abroad, they naturally come with us.
So if you're saying that you are catering to international partners, so do you see a difference in sustainable growth in business in India and internationally?
In the area that we are in, I think largely, it's the global standards pretty much exact, apply to most of the corporations, most of the countries. So from a sustainability perspective, I think it's very important that you have a very clear perspective in terms of what your ethos is, what your culture is, and when you expand abroad, you make sure that you carry that with us. Okay.
So is it different because we are still a developing nation and a lot of other countries are already developed in sense of strategies and sustainability?
I wouldn't say that we're very different, but obviously they're a lot more mature in some of their processes and some of their reporting standards, and we are probably getting there. The ESG, for instance, is a step in the direction, I think, which helps us to kind of move our level of maturity in those areas. But I guess given that the rate at which we are growing, I think it's not far that before we catch up with some of these exacting standards.
Okay. Sir, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm Sivakumar from Maven Silicon. Whether you are doing business in India, locally or globally, it's going to be the same, right? So everyone is looking for low-cost solutions. See, in our industry, semiconductor industry, basically we work directly with global chip makers. As of now, we do business pretty much directly with the global chip makers in India, right? So I do my business very consciously. If you look at my journey, I have been doing this training services business for more than 15 years. So we started our journey in the B2C space. We have been working closely with college graduates. Um, Initially, I didn't think like whether I'm really working with corporates or college graduates because I wanted to make sure that whatever the products I create, right, it should be well accepted by the community. And we are all engineers, so you don't really need to differentiate like whether they are college graduate or experienced engineer. So make sure that your product works fine. Make sure that your idea becomes feasible. And if that happens, then you can look at different paths like B2B. Now we started working closely with global chip makers as part of B2B business space, right? So you have to do your business consciously. You need to scale up your business gradually. So one of the strategies that we follow, we introduce new business verticals to explore the possibilities like how we can go global. As part of B2B business space, we work directly with global chip makers, right? So for example, we work directly with companies like Qualcomm, Samsung. There, the beauty is actually we train army of engineers. You can't believe it. Even it's not happening in the United States. When it comes to chip design, people become skeptical, like whether you can really train engineers completely online. I do it. I do it, you believe it or not. I train more than 500 engineers for Qualcomm in India, and it's pretty much possible. And with this success story, now I want to go to United States. I want to talk to the CXOs. I want to show them like, hey, this is happening. But there could be challenges also. The more you do in India, right, they will become like, wow, this is happening in India, and we want it to be completely low cost. So there is a challenge also. Then you need to understand like how to shift it. So you go there and work closely with CXOs, explain how this model works. And what we do in India, we want to replicate this business model in other countries like China. Because Qualcomm, they have operations everywhere. China, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia. And that's how I really want to realize the vision like Make in India, right?
So like you said, that people come to India thinking that they'll get a low-cost labor over here. So do you think that AI is also challenging because people are developing AI and maybe we will not be requiring engineers anymore to make chips? Maybe just an AI can help us in that. So what do you have to say about that?
This is the question everyone asks me also because I provide training courses for the college graduates. They are all ambitious, and when they come to Maven Silicon, they ask me, now AI, artificial intelligence is evolving, and what's going to happen to my future? See, in every field, whether you like it or not, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to compete with you. That's the fact. Then you have to be really smart. There are many mundane things we really want to automate. Think about it. Even every time when I go to Chennai, my native place is Chennai, right? But I do business in Bangalore. Driving all the way to Chennai is very frustrating, right? So I really want a self-driven car.
Tesla, you mean?
Let it be anything also, but I want it to be from Ola. I'm an Indian, so I expect big things to happen in India, right? So why Tesla? We can do much better than that. So whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence is going to compete with us, but we need to look at differently. How about leaving all mundane things to the stupid software? I'm a geek, so I can create software algorithms, but I don't look at all these things like, wow, they can be like God and then they can do amazing things. No, not really. We are the people who create the software. So we are the creators. So we need to leave all the mundane things to the software. Let it do. In chip design, there are many things we have to do manually. It's frustrating. And most of the times, we lose talented engineers because of that frustration. Talented engineers, they want to be so creative. They want to look at like how to create the architecture differently, how to play with design, how to play with design. It's a beautiful experience, right? But when it comes to implementation, you have to write the source code, and then you need to simulate it, and then you need to take it through computer-aided design. That's completely manual. We don't want to do that. But now what's happening is actually it's an opportunity for us to deploy the average engineers. But even then, we need to educate these average engineers also, right? See, you need to look at how the future is going to be and how to exist along with artificial intelligence. Definitely, there will be a lot of co-pilots. While writing the source code, you can make use of all these co-pilots to write your source code much better, right? So life is going to be much better. You can leave all stupid things to the software, let it do.
Okay. So, sir, my question to you is, what are some of the unique challenges that business faces when trying to implement sustainable practices across a global supply chain and operations?
One thing that I really want to share with you all, business ethics becomes very important. Whether you do your business locally or globally, you have to do your business consciously. And maybe you need to try some of the big things like working closely with global MNCs. I can say certain things. While working with global MNCs, companies like Qualcomm or Samsung, even for any small engagement, for example, even if the business value is going to be, let's say, 25 lakhs or 50 lakhs, there will be agreement. So you need to understand the documentation. And usually what they do is they initiate the auditing. They will make sure that you follow all the tax compliances. I can even tell you also, I generate 2.5 million USD in my company, so I don't really need to make it like secret because I pay all the taxes, and that's really required if you want to become a global company. Maybe you need to look at like how to register your company formally, like private limited company, at least private limited company, and then you have to be really ambitious also, how to make it public limited company, rather than looking at other options like proprietorship or LLP. Because if you want to work with global companies, it's better to approach this way, right? And later, you can also look at other options like how you can sell your company. Of course, you need to plan for your long-term journey, but you should always think about exits also. What if my business is not going to sustain? Then how can I plan for my exit, right? So that's where all these things become important. So business ethics becomes very, very important.
Thank you, sir. My question to you, Venu sir, is how can business balance the need for global expansion with the imperative to operate in an environmental and social responsible manner?
Good evening. My name is Venugopal, and I'm the managing director of Digitek, a Bangalore-based company. We are a manufacturing company. With my experience on the globalization, we have been working in African countries and Southeast Asian countries. I'm into telecom, by the way, telecom infrastructure. We build the networks. So whenever we venture into the developing nations, obviously we go to the countries where the telecommunication networks are getting built. What we find is that the cultural, the one size doesn't fit all. In fact, we thought that when we entered into Africa about 2011, we found that the way we built the mobile communication network in India, we could build in Africa as well. So we built about 170 engineers, expatriates we took from India. We built there, and then customer has given big orders. But then it took 5 years to build that size of numbers of the products what we supplied. So later we found that Africa, for example, each country is different in nature. You have to treat it as independent of each other. So one, that we should understand the cultural the gaps between these our country and the other countries. But particularly these days, we have seen that after the COVID, but my own experience is that we found that a lot of traction coming into the Indian manufacturers. I'm talking about the manufacturing because I come from that background. particularly after COVID, there is a kind of, anti-China and then more pro-Indian, manufacturers. Wherever we go, like last week I was in Africa in some 2-3 countries, they are welcoming our products. So my take would be, or my advice or my suggestion would be that whatever we do in India, like India is a mature market for most of our businesses. Any business, gets commoditized in India. And then customer tries to, kind of optimize it, the cost, like, he tries to break a solution into 10 products and try to pick up these 10 products from 10 different companies so that he maximizes the value. But whereas in the other parts, most of the other developing nations, the customer is looking for a solution, it's not just the box selling. So he expects the solution. So we should be prepared for a solution. So obviously you'll get the premium for that as well. Like as my colleagues here mentioned that, we need to know the local laws very well, because what is the import duty structures there, how do we employ the people there, and most importantly, like the risk factor. Like, I burned my fingers in Myanmar before the coup. We have a company there, and what I used to do was we supply the products from India and bill it from Indian company, so we get the dollars back. But then all the services, we used to have a company there, we still have that. And whatever the money was there, like, about, let's say, some few millions was there. After the coup, it became 1/10 of it in no time. And I could not, the repatriation of money was not possible. So I had to keep the money there, and money became 1/10 of what we had. So one should be aware of these risks and try to how to get the money out from these countries wherever we do business. And the sustainability, yes, I think we need to be aware that what does good for all of us, and then we should be concentrating on those areas. That's my own experience, I would say.
Sir, like you said that after COVID, a lot of business is coming back to India. Okay, so do you think that India is prepared for that heavy weightlifting of these businesses? And what about our sustainability strategy? Are we up to it?
I think if you see that day before yesterday during the budget presentation, the Prime Minister said that the 14% of the mobile phones, that iPhone mobile phones that were produced globally, they are, 14% comes from India. So India is geared up now, a lot of PLA schemes. We also have applied for some lithium-ion battery, cell manufacturing and other things. So a lot of support is there from the government. I think we all should take this opportunity, because after China, like for example, recently China, USA has banned some 6 companies, global companies of China from supplying the lithium-ion batteries. And then they have increased the duties that the products produced from China and imported. They increased the duty up to 100%. So what it means is that they don't want the China products. So naturally, for the world, I think India becomes the immediate choice, I would say. So we are, I would say we are getting prepared. We are not there still, but we are going to be there soon. That's what, with government support, like we are all putting up new plants in Bangalore, and we are trying to get ready for an alternative, to China.
Okay, thank you, sir. My question to you, Venkat sir, is that what role should governments and policymakers play in creating an enabling environment for business to pursue sustainable globalization strategies?
I'll just take one dimension, because I think we're a small business. And one of the challenges that we have is in terms of the support that the entrepreneurs get in India vis-a-vis what the people in the US get. So I think in terms of venture funding, in terms of mentoring, in terms of technology, while all of this is changing, I think, but there is still a long way to go, right? I mean, while we can call Bangalore as the Silicon Hub, while we can say that, but if you look at the actual number of startups who have succeeded in the software product market, I think it's still a very small number compared to the number of products that we see globally. So clearly, I mean, of course, there has been a talent drain that has been happening, which is slowly reversing. But I guess that from a policy standpoint, from a framework standpoint, from a institutional support standpoint, I think to encourage entrepreneurship, I think there is still a lot to be done. I mean, obviously, my co-panelists can add from a manufacturing and from other sector perspective, but from a software perspective, we clearly see and one of the imperatives for software companies is to kind of go global, because then they feel that the attractiveness to attract capital, talent, becomes higher if actually they go to the US market. But I mean, we need to see how we can reverse that.
Do you want to add something to this?
I agree with them. Even it's happening in our field also. We are not dealing with manufacturing, but we actually compete with the software industry. See, attracting engineers for the chip design itself is very challenging because it's very complex. At the same time, engineers find software programming like fun. You know, they always want to create mobile apps. They want to play with all the software things, right? So that's where we go and explain, like, you need to deal with circuit design. You have to be a good electronics engineer. Electronics is always secondary. And also, you need to compete with software giants like Facebook, Amazon, all these big companies. So that's a big challenge. That's where the government has to look at how to create new policies to promote fields like chip design. It looks very niche, but it's not like software. And when we go and present our ideas, like, we want to create new kind of processor, and how many investors can really understand this? So people will become skeptical also. They can be very passionate, like, wow, we really want to create new kind of processors. We want to make new kind of mobile phones in India. That's good, but they won't jump in just like that, because they know that hardware design is going to be very complex, and whatever the money we invest, it's not going to happen just like that, right? So that's where the government has to come forward, and they have to provide incentives, and that's happening actually. Now, India is very ambitious. Now, currently, if you look at the supply chain in the semiconductor space is disrupted. So every country is trying hard to contribute to to balance the supply chain. That's the priority. Overall, if you look at whatever the chips we use for all the electronic gadgets, right? Everything is coming from a small country called Taiwan. Do you know? That's next to China. That is the biggest challenge for everyone. So that is the main reason for the geopolitical situation between United States and China, right? US is trying to protect Taiwan. And that's where every country is looking at, like, why don't we create a good manufacturing ecosystem? Manufacturing is very important. And that's what our Prime Minister is also prioritizing, right? So we are very thankful for our Prime Minister, the kind of policies he is introducing. And that kind of balance is required. Instead of going behind the fields like software programming, right? We need to look at all other fields also.
So, like you said that there are a lot of big global players like Amazon, you mentioned, okay. So, what do you see as a difference in them and us, our Indian programming? How is it different? How do you think that they are planning the global sustainability growth differently than us?
Their approach is completely different. They know how to scale up their business. We are still learning, including myself. As of now, I'm doing my business like a self-funded company, right? I'm more comfortness. I'm not really sure how my life is going to be if I work with investors. As a geek, I don't want to spend too much time in forming the board and then interfacing with people like board of directors, and how much it's going to be easy to convince the investors, right? So there is a fear. There is a fear. For people like me, we want to be independent. We want to enjoy our business. And we want to make our business very powerful. We want to create an impact in the community. We want to work closely with engineers. We want to produce next generation of engineers. All these things there are absolutely no doubt. The kind of impact we create, I don't think that you can expect it from companies like Amazon. Completely revenue-based, right? So we also need to look at what's our priority, what's our goal, rather than blindly following companies like Amazon. That's my take on. But we also need to learn how to scale up. now I'm watching all these bigger companies, like how they scale up. Not really like Amazon, but companies like Audacity or Coursera, how they upskill engineers worldwide, right? So that's what I'm learning from them.
Venugopal sir, like, can you elaborate about the same topic in sense of manufacturing? Do you see that globally it's done differently, more sustainable than what it is done in India?
Yeah, it's different in the sense that the scaling up. I think still we are lacking. I would say, because when you go to China, like if you see a product, there are about 10, 11, 12, even 30 production lines I have seen in one factory, where the raw material goes in and then the finished product comes out. So they do the scaling up and they supply to the global market. Whereas we still, each product we look at, as one unit. So I think scaling up still needs to be done. We need to take up that, and then it involves a lot of investment, as we all know. Like for particularly the entrepreneurs, okay, big groups, they do have the funding resources, well. But somebody like an entrepreneur-based companies or the growing companies, we still find it a challenge, because like we got one, almost a $1 billion contract last year. Then when I approached my banker, he says, I can't fund this project, So growth gets limited or restricted by then. Whereas it is not the case in other countries like USA, where if you have a good project, the funding is the last thing they say. So get a good project and then the funding is available. So I think India still needs to grow into that level. When we go as an entrepreneur saying that we have a great product, we have some project in hand, so do come and be part of this, project. Still, many people don't believe that we can do it. I think this is something which I myself, like, about my company, like if I say, 2007 I've started with just 10 people, and today we are about 4,000 people, and the turnover is about 2,500 crores. So, but then growth, we want to do it. Like we want to also grow the companies into a large scale. But then the funding, without the funding, it becomes a Herculean task for us. So we lack in that. So maybe government should support some more based on the good project or bankable project. Somebody should come forward for funding that kind of projects. Then manufacturers like us, we all have to scale up. Scaling up is required, because most of the things we produce in India, we consume it. Like we are a consuming country. So we need to get ready for the global supply, and the supply chain becomes very important, like raw material components and things like that. Somewhere, again and again, we go back to the country like China for the raw material. So we need to become self-sustainable, I think, and the funding should be available. These are the two, three things I would say, so that we can get ready for the global requirements.
So, how can we go ahead? How can we break this chain of going back to China again and again? What do you think that we in India need to do to get over that?
I think some more policy, reforms are required from the government to support this cause. It's happening, I would say, but then maybe still it has not reached the people like us, the entrepreneurship company-based. They need some more support from the government, I would say. And then we are all ready to take up to this kind of challenge. And the requirement, as you know, it's the growing. The demands are growing very well. We keep getting inquiries of millions of dollars, regularly. But then we were not there to scale up the production to that extent, because the funding becomes the second reason. So I think if these things are tied up, we would be able to do that. We should be able to do that, in my opinion. Probably in the next few years, things would be more improved, I would say. I'm confident about it.
Okay. Do you want to add something, Venkat sir?
Yes, I think there are three factors of production, right? So they have the capital, land, and people. And I guess there is an ecosystem that surrounds each of these factors. And when I look at capital, as the panelists were saying, access to debt capital is a huge challenge. I think without the collateral, for us to be able to raise capital or debt capital is quite difficult. And if you look at the equity capital, the ecosystem is just building. I think it is still not there. as they said that they are not able to appreciate some of the stuff that we're bringing on the table. There is a sense of doubt, and I mean, there is a leap of faith that we will have to create in them rather than they being able to appreciate the technology and then invest that capital. If you look at people, I think that's changing. I think we're able to attract a lot of talent now. I think the kind of talent whom we would lose abroad are probably coming back, so we're able to kind of latch on to that. But I guess we're still probably a few years away from saying that we can actually make that leap.
Okay.
Hello. I feel like we need to gain the confidence of global market. What's happening in the semiconductor space, if you look at countries like Taiwan, South Korea, they all contribute heavily, including Japan. Why? Because they all partnered with the United States long back. So US consciously chose all these countries as their partners. That's how things happen. So they built the supply chain. They have been working closely with all these countries like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. That's how they built the supply chain. So we missed the bus. That's one reason. So we have to do business ethically, and we have to look at big things like creating patents in our field. That's very important. We need to gain the confidence of global market, right? See, that's very important. So government should also look at how to do big things immediately. Now, every country is trying to balance the supply chain. We all want to contribute to the supply chain because we are not happy with this kind of disruption. What if something happens to Taiwan? What if we don't get chips on time? We experienced it during COVID. That's where everybody learned, right? Beyond geopolitical situation between US and China, we experienced it because we were getting all the chips from Taiwan and suddenly we didn't get chips on time, and that completely affected the whole thing. So that's very important, like how we gain the confidence of global market. And if they all believe that even India can do big things, I think things will happen.
So in short, you mean to say that we have to build that global trust to get there?
Yes, global trust is very important.
Okay. So my question to you is, in what ways can digital technologies and innovations help business enhance the sustainability of their global footprint and operations?
Based on my personal experience during COVID, I founded Maven Silicon 15 years back. We were so popular for offline courses. That's what we were doing. And I didn't know whether COVID is going to happen or not. When I was watching movies on Netflix, I thought how about teaching chip design the same way? So I really wanted to publish self-paced courses. I wanted every engineer to enjoy learning chip design using their computer at home only. You believe it or not, online courses are much more effective than offline courses. It's only our mindset, right? So that's what I personally experienced. So that's where the technology helped me. That time I figured out what kind of LMS required learning management system and how to create better videos and how to publish great courses, right? You can't simply do something like screen recorded videos because that's going to be monotonous, right? So that's exactly like movie making. I do it full time and that works beautifully. And during COVID, what happened? We were not able to continue our business through offline, and that's where we launched our online courses, right? So I was proactive, and that helped. So that's one good example how you can automate your business through technology, right? So we introduced online courses, and today the beauty is actually we use the same business model. We provide learning subscription for companies like Qualcomm and Samsung. We provide learning subscription like 3 years learning subscription or 1 year learning subscription. But the model is same. And we are able to train army of engineers, an army of engineers like 500 plus. That's possible only through automation. How many trainers you need? How can you think of training 500 engineers every year? And that's pretty much possible through automation, right? So that's what I'm here to share my experience.
Thank you, sir. My question to you, Venugopal sir, is, how important are transparency, traceability, and accountability when it comes to sustainability credentials of global businesses?
It's very important because most of us, like, we're kind of, over enthusiasm we show in during our negotiations with the customer. And we always end up in, over committing and underperforming. So that's where it's very important that we need to be very clear in terms of what we are committing to the customer. And we need to be transparent in terms of there are any issues. We always believe that, at least I had one or two experiences like that, then I could correct it later when I started doing my global business or export business somewhere in 2010 and 11. I used to always feel that, if I don't accept what they're asking, I would lose the business. But then, that's wrong. It's better to be open, transparent, and try to commit what we can do and what time it takes and what cost it takes. Particularly the global, I think doing global business, I would say that transparency plays a big role, and we need to be also clearly, committing what we can do. I think over-committing is going to only, make us, lose business as well as customers mistrust. So I would say transparency comes, the first in terms of whenever we sign up any business contracts, it's better to be open, transparent, and clear with them.
Okay. So with this, I will wrap up this panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
to
Thank
be
you very
here.
much.
Thank you.